Good afternoon. In this video, we're going to go over this week's options watch list. Before I get into the watch list, if you're in the room, you can find the link in the description of the video and in my bio section of social media accounts. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now looking at the put to call ratio is at 0.64. It's not that low. It's not extremely high. So it's actually kind of low actually, because it was at underneath 0.5 on last week, but we can definitely go higher, but we'll have to see. There's really nothing really to look at on the put to call ratio. As far as the economic calendar, there's really not much going on this week. Monday, nothing really happening. Tuesday, we get consumer confidence at 10. Wednesday, we have Powell at 9:30. He's at some kind of ECB conference. And on Thursday, we have unemployment claims. And Friday, we have consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. So not really much going on except for Powell and the unemployment claims and the final GDP, which is at Thursday. So Wednesday and Thursday will probably be the bigger days on the economic calendar, but that can change very, very easily. We're going to watch most of the stocks we've been watching the last couple of weeks. So we're going to just cover those really quickly. One thing I want to look at before we get into SPY is the VIX. VIX is just staying under 14 despite SPY being red and going down. VIX just is not having any fear whatsoever. Too many people are too comfortable on the long side. No one's hedging. No one thinks that anything's going to happen. And this is when you see things happening. When people get too confident, people get too used to just buying the dip and expecting someone to save them or the Fed to save them. This is not normal action. This SPY is not going to keep going. And the VIX is not going to stay under 14. The last time it was down in this 12 area was over here in 2019 before the COVID crash. But before that, the range was like 20. Well, we'll just say 19 to 30 was the VIX range for the last few years, couple of years. And now we could end up seeing a change in the VIX. We could end up going back to this 12 to 25 or 12 to 20 on VIX. So we'll have to see if that actually happens. But there's so much crazy stuff happening between the Russian coup attempt that happened overnight, over the weekend now, which is practically over. So was expecting the market to gap down huge tonight, futures to gap down huge, and SPY gap down tomorrow. But with it over and done with, I would not be surprised if SPY opens flat or even up. But if it does manage to open, if it does manage to gap down, I think SPY is going to pop Monday morning, because everyone's probably going to jump into puts at Monday morning, and then they'll pop it at open, get everybody stopped out. Then they could end up dropping from there. But VIX is not going to stay down here. I've been expecting it to pop for a while. But the crazy thing to me is VIX is dropping with SPY. That is not something normal you see. Not since the Obama era you see stuff like that, but people are getting too comfortable on the long side, and that's when you end up seeing a major rug pull. So VIX could get down to 12. If it does, I'd be more apt to start looking at SPY puts and VIX calls and stuff like that, because it's not going to stay down here. You know, I expected it to pop last week and the week before, but it just didn't. It's crazy seeing SPY drop and VIX not pop. So this shows you there's no fear right now, and when there's no fear, that's when something ends up happening. A black swan event or something crazy ends up happening, and VIX just goes crazy and SPY just dumps huge. Now SPY, it did pull back, as we were talking about right here, when VIX wasn't going anywhere. To me, I think that's a huge indicator of that something is brewing, something's going to happen. Is when VIX is just staying stationary under 14, compressed, I think something is coming. We'll just have to figure out when. That's why you need to be in the room, because it's going to be a day-to-day, event, news, headline to headline kind of thing, where anything can happen at any given time. So I'd watch underneath 432 for 430 to 425 to 420. Then you get this 415, 410 area. So definitely keep an eye on that for it to drop. Now it could end up popping too. I mean, I'm not really too kosher it will go much further, unless for some reason we've been seeing the last couple of weeks where SPY will not SPY, sorry, VIX will pop just a little bit to give SPY more room to run more. So, I mean, we've seen that happen the last couple of weeks, where VIX will pop 50 cents to $1, and on a massive pop, then that SPY will have the room to run more, and we've seen that the last couple of weeks. We could see that more, so I would definitely keep an eye on SPY over 436 for push to the high of 440 and 444. So, but I'm looking at the downside on this, but maybe I'm a little too biased. The VIX has got me thinking we're going to get a rug pull. We're not staying at VIX under 13 for long. Maybe a few days, maybe this week. We could be another week under 13, but something's going to happen. The question is what? I have no idea. So until then, we'll just day trade what's given us day by day, but I think that we're going to end up going to 420, maybe even 410. I just don't know what it will be. VIX we already covered. Meta is one that's just going so crazy. I mean, look at this. The weekly RSI is at 78. Daily is at 78. And we have a bearish divergence going on. As you can see, the RSI is making a lower high as it's making a higher high price action-wise. So we could definitely end up seeing a pullback. We've been kind of keeping an eye on these same few stocks for the last month and all the body of the candles. I mean, look at that. For the last 2 months, weekly candles have been outside the Keltner channel. That is not natural. That does not happen. It just shows you that the move is so extreme that that Meta is either get a chop to bring up the indicators or it needs to come back into it. It can chop to bring them up, but it's on the weekly. It's kind of rare to do that. They would need like some kind of really crazy range to stay in there for about a month or something to bring it up. But so I would watch it underneath 280 or push down to 270, 260, 250. Then you got the 240 area. Then you get gap support right here at 230. I don't think it's going to break 230. I mean, that's a $50 drop right there. That will probably end up getting caught. So what was that? 230. Where is that right here? 230 would be right around the middle of the Keltner channel. That'd be perfect. That'd be a perfect number to grab to go down to right there, based on how everything's set up right now on Meta. NVIDIA still is starting to look weak though. Starting to show a little weakness, starting to have a little bit of a rounded top, but it's starting to look weaker here too. And then it just popped more. But I mean, look at the weekly candles. I mean, this is just ridiculous. This is this. I mean, you got the candle right here, comes back, it pops up more. You get the candle pop, and then it pops up more. Then it actually does manage to go back in. So maybe it will finally get back into the Keltner channel. I would watch it underneath 420 for a push down to the 410. Basically every $10, 400 would be a big psychological number. Then 390, 380. What is this area? It's right on 380. Then you get the gap support right here, right around 370. Right around 370s right here. So it would probably likely bounce because that's another $50 drop right there, and it can make it head and shoulders for probably because you get the left, you get the head, and if it does manage to drop down here, it could end up bouncing a little bit, making a right shoulder, then actually go and fill the gap. That could be like long term. So we'll have to see what happens on that. And I know that Pelosi got Apple, so maybe she knows something we don't. Maybe the market's going to keep going. Speaking of, we'll pull up Apple, even though I'm not really looking at it this week because it's just it doesn't really move much for me. But Pelosi bought, I think on the right around here is when she bought it. It came out like. It came out. We'll have to look in the chat. When did she buy? Where did she buy? I think I posted it in the room. She bought it on the 615, which is right here, right at high day, right here. She bought the higher day. Oh, yeah, the breakout right here is where she bought it. So she bought this breakout. So maybe she's always managed to be right. She's inside trades so much. So maybe she knows something we don't, because she's just an inside trader, which she should be thrown in jail, but she won't. But anyways, she bought right here, so maybe she's expecting it to keep going. Maybe she knows something. But to me, I mean, I think this is kind of stupid, but what do I know? I mean, I'm not an insider trader like her. I don't have information like she does. But to me, it broke out of the weekly. Then you get the RSI sitting at 74. It does not like being up here. And the body of the candles are outside the Keltner channel. So to me, this is a huge red flag. Even though it did break out, there's a trend line right here. It can go to the, what was the trend line be? It's got room to 193. I mean, if it goes onto that trend line, so it's possible it can go to 193. But to me, the RSI, I would not be on the long side up here. But you can do what you want. Me, I'm not interested. Apple doesn't move enough for me. But if you do want to take it on the put side, I'd watch it underneath 184. And then you got all this room down here. You got 184, you got 178, 174, 170, and you get the trend line right here at the 165 area. So I don't usually cover Apple because it just doesn't move enough for me. So Tesla, another one. Well, wrong Tesla. I typed it in again. Tesla. What the hell? There we go. Weekly. Red candle right there, right outside the Keltner channel. It definitely looks pretty good that it might pull back. It did hit this 270 area. Get a little bit of a head and shoulders on the hourly and daily. You can see the left, the head, and the right shoulder. So I would watch it underneath 253 for push down to 240. We'll just say 244. Then you get a gap fill at 240. And then you get the gap fill at 240, which is right here. Well, daily. To say it's 242, 240, 235. So we can see a gap fill on that. I definitely think that if it does break below this 254 area, 253 area, that we could definitely end up seeing a gap fill, because it broke out, came back down, tested support right here at the 247 area, then it popped a little bit, then it came back down. So now it does come back down to it. It does have room to break it. So I would definitely keep an eye on that. Microsoft is another one that's it rejected this 245 area harshly, and then it had a inside red weekly right there. So that's usually a good sign. We could have seen some downside of that. So I would watch it underneath. Let's see, underneath 233 for push to 333 for push to 330. Then you get the 325, 320. Basically every $5, 315, 310, 305, 300. And you got gap fill right down here at the 288, 290 area. I don't think it will get that low to fill the gap. I think if anything, it could bounce right around the 300 level or even the 295 if it does manage to have a significant drop on that. So on Microsoft. BA, it rejected that and it came back into the channel. I'm kind of not surprised, but now that we've had it come back into the channel, so I'd probably watch it at the 200 level. It could bounce at 200 or even 195, but then again, maybe because it rejected the weekly breakout, that we could end up actually seeing a drop on this. Maybe it actually drops this time and it was just a fake out to trap bulls in the long side before they actually dump it. So yeah, definitely keep an eye out on the 200 195 level on BA. If it does manage to drop to 200 and have a couple small candles, and then it could have some room to drop. So, and if it does drop, I mean, we got room down to 195, 190. We got RCT trend line down here at the 185. Then you got weekly support right down here at 175 on that. So that could be a good area for maybe a bounce play right around that. But we'll have to see. It could stay right in the range for another 6 months. Who knows? But BA is kind of crazy. I really thought if it got over that 225 level, it was going to take off last week, but it rejected harshly. So That's going to do it for the watch list. And thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the room.